My girlfriend said yes at Disneyland, but whispered her ex's name that night. I thought I was the love of her life, until I found out I was just plan B after her college ex said no. She said, if Jake asked me first, I would have said no to you. They say Disneyland is the happiest place on earth. I thought it would be the perfect spot to ask the love of my life to marry me. Turns out, it's where I found out I was just her backup plan. So look, I'm not one of those overly sentimental guys. I'm not into grand gestures or sappy stuff most of the time. But for her, I would have done anything. I spent 3 years with this girl, thinking she was the one. I mean it. She was smart, had this goofy laugh that could disarm me in seconds, and always said she wanted to be proposed to in front of the Disneyland castle, with fireworks in the background. Ever since she was a kid, she dreamed of that moment. So when I decided to propose, I thought, yeah, let's do it big. I started planning months in advance. Booked the trip, got the ring, coordinated with the park to make sure I'd pop the question at the perfect time, right as the evening fireworks went off. I even paid for one of those photographers to catch the moment. I was nervous, yeah, but also excited. I kept imagining her face when I dropped to one knee. That shock, the joy, the tears. I thought I knew what it would look like. But when the moment came, I'll never forget what I actually saw. We were standing near the castle. The sky was starting to turn pink from the sunset. People were gathering for the fireworks show. I felt her hand in mine, and it felt warm and steady. For a second, everything felt right. And then I pulled out the ring box, got down on one knee, and opened it. She froze. Literally froze. Like someone had hit pause. Now, to be fair, people react to proposals in all kinds of weird ways. I figured it was just shock. I said her name and asked her to marry me. Loud enough for the people around us to hear. Because yeah, part of me wanted that big movie moment. She blinked a few times, smiled, and said yes. The crowd around us started clapping. The photographer snapped a bunch of pictures. She hugged me, but it felt off. She was stiff, like she was holding her breath. When she pulled back, she avoided eye contact. She wiped at her eyes quickly, but she wasn't crying. Not really. Something was wrong. But I brushed it off. I figured she was overwhelmed. Or maybe she didn't like crowds as much as I thought. That night, we had dinner reservations at a fancy place in the park. I kept looking at her across the table, waiting for the excitement to kick in. You know how couples get after getting engaged? Giddy, nonstop smiles, showing off the ring, calling their families, planning the future? She just kind of sat there, scrolling her phone a lot. Said she was tired. Didn't even post the ring on Instagram. Didn't want to FaceTime her mom. Said she'd rather wait until we were back home to tell people. I asked her, "Are you okay? You seem kind of out of it." She smiled and said, "Yeah, just overwhelmed. It's a lot." But it didn't feel like excitement. It felt like grief. Later that night, I was in bed scrolling through our proposal photos, trying to convince myself it was all in my head, when I looked over at her. She was sitting on the balcony outside our hotel room. Alone, just staring into the night sky. No phone, no music, just staring. And I remember thinking, why does it feel like she's mourning something? That night, we didn't even sleep together. She said she had a headache and went to bed early. I stayed up for hours, just staring at the ring on her hand, glowing faintly in the moonlight. I'd spent months planning this. Thousands of dollars. Poured everything into the moment. But deep down, something was off, and it wasn't going away. After getting engaged, most couples are on cloud nine. Us, we barely spoke. And when she did, it felt like she was somewhere else. Mentally, emotionally, maybe even with someone else. We got back home a few days after the trip, and the silence between us didn't lift. If anything, it got heavier. The first few mornings after the proposal, I woke up expecting her to be buzzing with energy, calling friends, showing off the ring to coworkers, FaceTiming her mom nonstop. Instead, she kept saying things like, "I don't want to make a big deal out of it yet." Or, "Let's keep it between us for a bit." That confused the hell out of me. I mean, she'd always talked about this exact moment. Getting engaged, posting cute pictures, Pinterest boards with wedding themes. Hell, she had an entire dream wedding folder on her phone. Now suddenly, she wanted to keep it quiet? I asked, "Do you not want people to know we're engaged?" She paused, then gave me a weird smile and said, No, I just want to enjoy the moment first. Just us." It felt like a decent answer. Until a day later, I saw that she had told someone, her best friend. But she asked her not to post anything either. She even said, "We're not rushing into anything." It was like she wanted to be engaged, but also didn't. And it got weirder. Every time I brought up wedding stuff, venues, dates, whether she wanted something big or small, she brushed it off, changed the subject, or gave vague answers like, "We'll figure it out later." Okay, maybe she was just nervous. Some people get cold feet, right? But there were other things I couldn't ignore. She was on her phone all the time, more than usual. She kept flipping it over whenever I came into the room. And she started acting more distant physically, pulling away during hugs, making excuses not to have sex, and always being too tired for any real conversation. Now listen, I'm not paranoid by nature. I don't snoop through people's phones or jump to conclusions. But when your fiancée, the woman who once couldn't keep her hands off you, suddenly acts like your touch annoys her, you feel it. One night, about a week after we got back, we were watching TV on the couch. She had her feet in my lap, but she was barely watching, kept staring at her phone. Then she got a message that made her sit up straight. She turned the screen away instantly. I asked, "Everything okay?" She jumped a little and said, "Yeah, just work stuff." At 10:30 p.m., the next morning, I woke up early to get ready for work. She was still asleep, tangled up in the blankets, face buried in the pillow. And that's when I heard her. She mumbled something in her sleep, barely audible, soft as a breath. But it sent a cold spike down my spine. Why didn't he ask me? I froze, just stood there in the doorway. She shifted a little, then whispered again. He was supposed to propose first. I swear to God, I felt the air leave the room. I stood there for another minute, just watching her sleep. My heart was thudding in my ears. My mind was racing. Who the hell was he? My first thought was her ex. The one she always insisted was ancient history. The one she said she had zero feelings for. She'd told me about him early on, Jake. They dated in college. On and off, messy stuff. But she said it was toxic, and she was glad it ended. That she hadn't even spoken to him in years. And now, in her sleep, she was wishing he had proposed first? I didn't say anything to her that morning. I went to work like normal. But all day, I couldn't shake it. It was like I had opened a door in my brain, and behind it was this terrible truth I hadn't wanted to see. She said yes to me. But what if she only said yes because the guy she really wanted didn't ask? What if this whole engagement was her settling? I started wondering, what happened before the trip? Who had she been talking to? What conversations had I missed? And then I remembered something else. A week before we went to Disneyland, she'd posted an old photo to her Instagram story. It was one of those throwback to college days kind of posts. In it, she was standing with Jake, her ex, at a college football game. She had her arms around him. He was kissing her on the cheek. The caption read, "Crazy to think this was almost us." I didn't think much of it at the time. But now it looked like a warning shot I completely ignored. You ever get that gut feeling something's off, but you can't prove it yet? Well, I didn't just feel it. I heard it. From her own mouth. While she was asleep. After hearing her say that in her sleep. Why didn't he ask me? I was stuck somewhere between panic and denial. I wanted to believe I misheard it. That my brain was just being cruel and overthinking things. That I'd imagined it out of insecurity or exhaustion or whatever. But you know when something cuts too deep to ignore? When the voice in your head won't shut up. Yeah, that was me for the next 3 days. She was acting like nothing happened. Same smile, same little routines. She'd make coffee, talk about shows she was watching, occasionally mention some small wedding thing just to keep up appearances. But there was something behind her eyes. A heaviness. Like she was dragging around some emotional baggage she was pretending didn't exist. And I was dragging around the growing suspicion that I wasn't the one she wanted. Still, I didn't say anything. I needed proof. I didn't want to blow up our entire relationship over a couple mumbled words in her sleep. But man, that voice inside me, it wouldn't stop. So I did what I told myself I'd never do in a relationship. I snooped. One night while she was in the shower, I opened her laptop. She always left it on the kitchen table. And yeah, she had a password, but it was easy. It was our cat's name. Real Fort Knox stuff. I didn't even know what I was looking for. Just some kind of confirmation. A clue. Maybe an old message. A draft email. Anything. And that's when I found her photos folder. She had a subfolder with her name and Jake's initials. J+K. I clicked it. It was like a time capsule from her college years. Beach trips. Holidays. Study dates. Then I hit the info button. The last photo was dated just 2 weeks before our Disneyland trip. And guess what? It wasn't an old memory. It was a new selfie. Her and Jake. At a bar. Same bar I'd seen tagged in her stories a couple weeks ago, where she claimed she was doing a girls' night. She looked happy. Real happy. Like she used to look with me. I felt like someone punched me in the chest. Then it got worse. I went to her messages. Yeah, I know. It's a line. But I was already past the line. Way past it. Her laptop was synced to her iMessages. And there it was. A thread with Jake. Recent. Frequent. Way too familiar. The last message from her, sent 2 days before we left for Disneyland, said, "If you change your mind before Friday, say something. Otherwise, I'm going through with it." Through with what? The next one from him. "You know I still care about you. But I'm not ready for all that. He seems like a good guy. Don't ruin it if you're not sure." And then her reply. "I'm not sure. That's the problem." I just sat there, staring at the screen. She was waiting on him to make a move. Not hoping I would propose. She was waiting to see if he would. I was the fallback. The runner-up. The silver medal she'd settle for if the gold didn't want her. I slammed the laptop shut. She came out of the shower not long after, wearing one of my old t-shirts, smiling like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just emotionally nuked our relationship without even knowing it. I watched her curl up on the couch, scrolling her phone, probably texting Jake again. I felt sick. And angry. And weirdly calm. You ever feel so betrayed that your emotions go completely quiet? Like your brain stops yelling, and all that's left is cold, clear logic? That was me. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't scream or cry or ask her to explain anything. I just watched. I let her keep pretending everything was fine. Because at that point, I wasn't planning to fix anything. I was planning how to burn it all down. There's nothing like hearing it straight from the guy she wished proposed to her. I didn't even have to ask. Jake messaged me first. After I read her messages to Jake, everything shifted. The second I closed that laptop, I knew I was done playing the part of the happy fiancé. No more pretending I was clueless. No more forcing smiles. I just didn't know what my next move was. Then fate made it for me. 2 days later, I was sitting at my desk, pretending to work, when I got a message request on Instagram. The name? Jake. At first, I thought it was a burner. Or maybe a prank. But no. I tapped the profile. It was him. Same face from the photos. Still rocking that fake deep quote in his bio. His account was full of gym selfies and posts that gave inspirational dirtbag energy. I opened the message. It started like this. "Hey man, I know this is probably super weird. I debated even messaging you, but I feel like you deserve to know what's going on." And immediately I knew. He wasn't about to confess something small. He sent a full paragraph. Long, rambling. But it told me everything I needed to hear, and more than I expected. He told me that he and my fiancée, let's call her Kelsey, had met up about a month before our trip to Disneyland. She told him she was still in love with him, that she didn't think she could say yes to anyone until she knew for sure if things were really over between them. He said she told him, and I quote, "If you ask me to be with you, I'll drop everything." Jake swore he told her that he didn't want a relationship, said they'd changed too much since college, and he wasn't interested in rekindling anything. That's when she apparently told him about me. Told him I was stable, sweet, and probably going to propose soon. Probably going to propose soon. Like I was a scheduled backup flight. In case her dream guy never boarded the plane. Jake said, and I actually respect this part. "I'm not telling you this to stir drama. But I can't sit back and pretend I didn't know. She's using you, man. And you don't deserve that." He also mentioned he hadn't heard from her since the trip. No congratulations. No messages. Nothing. Just silence. That message broke something open in me. Not because I believed every word Jake said. He's still her ex, and there's probably more to the story, but because his version lined up exactly with what I'd seen on her phone. The timeline matched. The tone matched. Even his hesitation made sense. He wasn't bragging. He sounded guilty. I didn't respond. I just stared at the screen for a long time. Kelsey came home a couple hours later, walked in like nothing was wrong. She kissed me on the cheek, dropped her purse, and went to feed the cat. Casual. Effortless. And there I was, sitting there, knowing that 2 days before I asked her to spend her life with me, she was begging another man to take her back. The most painful part? She would have said no to me if Jake had said yes. That night, we had dinner together. She talked about booking a venue. Suddenly, she was interested in wedding stuff again. She showed me some Pinterest board with color schemes and a beach location she liked. But her timing? It was all off. It wasn't excitement. It was settling. She was settling in, getting used to the life she didn't really want, because the one she wanted had walked away. And the worst part? She was trying to play it off like it was all her idea, like she had chosen me. I sat across from her, smiling, nodding, asking about flowers and dresses, while my blood was boiling underneath the surface. I didn't say a word, because I wasn't going to confront her. No, I was going to let her build the dream wedding she wanted with me. Let her post all the cute photos. Let her show off the ring. Let her tell everyone how perfect her life was. And then, I was going to pull the pin out of the grenade she didn't even know I was holding. She thought she'd won, thought I'd never find out. So I let her keep thinking that. Then I ruined everything she built, quietly, cleanly, and permanently. After Jake's message, I knew exactly who I was dealing with. Kelsey wasn't confused. She wasn't overwhelmed. She was a liar, a manipulator. She'd made a calculated choice to accept my proposal after her first choice turned her down. And now she wanted to play bride like nothing happened. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't even going to call her out. I was going to let her walk herself to the altar, smiling, blissful, proud, and then take everything away, all at once. Not because I'm petty, but because I wanted her to feel it. I wanted her to remember that moment for the rest of her life. So I played the role. I told her the venue she liked sounded perfect. I pretended to get excited about flower arrangements and table settings. I even went to her dress fitting with her and complimented the one she chose. Told her she looked beautiful, that she was going to be the perfect bride. She cried when she found the dress, tears streaming down her face. Not because she was overwhelmed with love. No, it was the weight of her own regret catching up to her. I could see it. The way her hands trembled when she looked in the mirror. The way she avoided my eyes when I kissed her forehead. I started documenting everything. Screenshots of her messages with Jake. Screenshots of her telling her friends that she wasn't sure about me. Voice memos from our conversations where she would slip up and say stuff like, "I'm just trying to move on and be happy," as if she hadn't already chosen happiness with me. I backed up the entire message thread from her iMessages on her laptop. Created a Google Drive folder, titled it Insurance. Kept copies on 2 devices, just in case. Then I went to work on the wedding. I was the ideal fiancé. I told her family how excited I was. I showed her dad the ring, talked to her mom about surprise details for the reception. I even arranged for a live band she'd wanted for the big night. Every time she posted on social media about the wedding, cute captions like, "Forever starts now," and "He's the love of my life," I saved those too. For context. For contrast. See, her biggest fear wasn't being alone. It was being embarrassed. She cared deeply about how people saw her, how polished her life looked from the outside. I knew if I hit her reputation, I'd hit where it hurts most. And then came the final 2 weeks before the wedding. Invites were out. Her family was flying in. Her bridesmaids had the dresses. My groomsmen were ready. Everything was locked and paid for. She was glowing, smiling more, probably convincing herself she'd made the right choice after all, that I was dependable, that maybe love would grow where it hadn't existed. And right when she was at her happiest, when she was standing on the cliff of everything she thought she secured, I pushed. Here's what I did. I wrote an email, one message, with everything. Screenshots of her messages with Jake. Quotes from the conversation where she begged him to stop the proposal. Dates, times, photos, screenshots of her texts to her friend, where she said, "I don't know if I can love him the way he loves me." Every piece of truth she tried to bury beneath a wedding cake and a guest list. And I sent it to 4 people. Her mother, her father, her sister, her maid of honor. The subject line was simple. You deserve the truth before the wedding. Then I packed a bag, canceled my half of the wedding plans, called every vendor I had a contract with, and told them not to show. Last thing I did, posted one photo to my Instagram. It was just the engagement ring, sitting on the windowsill, with a caption. She said yes because he said no. Wedding's off. I'll be okay. Then I turned my phone off and drove 6 hours out of state to a friend's cabin. No cell service. No distractions. Just quiet. Apparently, all hell broke loose. When I turned my phone back on 2 days later, I had over 100 missed calls, 50+ texts, and dozens of DMs. Her sister thanked me, said she always felt something was off. Her mom wrote a message that started with, "I don't even know what to say. I'm so sorry." And Kelsey? Kelsey texted me just one sentence. "You didn't have to humiliate me. No apology." No denial. No explanation. Just pain. And that meant it worked. She didn't just lose me. She lost the illusion. The dream life. The Pinterest board. The approval. The image she'd worked so hard to build on a lie. She still lives in the same city. Still posts fake smiling selfies. But the ring's gone. The wedding photos never happened. And everyone in her circle knows exactly why. Because I didn't explode. I exposed. It had been a full year since I walked away from the wedding. And just when I finally stopped thinking about her, she messaged me. Of course she did. It's funny how silence can be louder than words. After I sent that final email and disappeared, I didn't say another thing to Kelsey. Not one word. I blocked her on everything. Instagram, phone, Facebook, even Venmo. I didn't want closure. I didn't want explanations. And I damn sure didn't want apologies that came from guilt instead of love. I was done. Or at least, I wanted to be done. But healing doesn't happen like a light switch. It's slow. Some nights, I still thought about her, wondering if she ever told the full truth to her parents, if she ever looked in the mirror and admitted what she did, or if she just blamed me for everything. I stayed in that cabin for a couple weeks after the wedding was supposed to happen. Just me, some old movies, a grill, and a lot of late-night overthinking. Then I moved to a new city. Took a job with a friend's startup. Started going to the gym again. Rebuilt. I didn't date for a while. Couldn't bring myself to. The trust wasn't there. Every time I met someone, I heard that voice. Don't fall too fast. You saw how that turned out. But after maybe 8, 9 months, I started letting someone new in. Her name was Claire. Met her through mutual friends. She didn't rush me. Didn't overshare. Just showed up consistently. One morning I realized I hadn't thought about Kelsey in weeks. Not even a flicker. And that's when it happened. Almost exactly 1 year after I left Kelsey at the edge of her fantasy life, I got an email. No subject line. Just a name in the cinder box I hadn't seen in 12 months. Kelsey. I stared at it for a while. Wasn't sure if I even wanted to read it. But I did. The message wasn't long. And it didn't say much. But somehow, it still said everything. Hey, I don't expect a response. I just wanted you to know I think about you all the time. I've gone to therapy. I've been doing a lot of self-work. I realize now that I sabotaged the best thing that ever happened to me. You didn't deserve any of what I put you through. You were kind. You were steady. You were everything I should have wanted when I had the chance. Then there was a second paragraph. I still keep that photo from Disneyland on my phone. The one right after you proposed. Everyone says I look so happy in it. But I know I wasn't. I was confused. I was hoping someone else would stop me. That's the part that haunts me. That I needed to be stopped from accepting someone so good. I don't know if you hate me. I don't know if you've moved on. I just needed to say something. I miss you. I miss what we had. And I miss who I was when I was with you. She signed it with her name and a little take care at the end. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because I had moved on. And more importantly, I finally understood what she meant in that message. She wasn't trying to get back together. She was grieving the person who loved her unconditionally before she made him feel replaceable. I showed the email to Claire later that night. She read it in silence, then looked at me and said, "You know what the saddest part is? She really did love you, just not enough to let go of someone who didn't." And that was it. I proposed to Claire 6 months later. No fireworks, no crowd, no castle. Just us, on a quiet hilltop, with the sun going down behind her. She said yes instantly, and I knew she meant it. Because when someone's truly ready to love you, they don't wait to see if someone better shows up first.